Sir,
Yes.
I think not anyone, no one is here now. I'm updating anyway. If somebody comes, okay. Otherwise, just don't worry about all this. Whatever best we can do, you can give overview just for
Yeah.
record.
Let me wait for 5 minutes. Okay.
Sir, already wasted your time. I'm sorry for that. No, actually, what happened? My relatives came. So then I completely missed this.
अच्छा आपण ଗୋଟେ କାମ କରିବେ ମୁଁ I can just read out okay some of the highlights and points okay just for
Sir,
the
sir.
record
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
okay and as soon as you tell me okay and I can begin.
So, sir, you can begin now. It is live.
Please try if at least one person can join okay or else I can join. I can start.
Yes, yes. I'm. Sir, Supriya is there. You can start.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Okay. Good morning. This is July 20th. This course is MPSC 1. Uh, the code number is MPSC 1 and the title of the course is India and the World. Last week we had our first class in which I gave an overview about India's relations with the rest of the world, how the foreign policy decision making is being made, and what are the processes, what are the nuances, what are the pluses and minuses, what are the determinants. Um, in terms of theory, uh, the India's foreign policy and the way India's stepping of the policy toward the rest of the world uh, is based on a number of important mainstream international relations or international politics theory. For example, the idealism which some people subscribe to, it is based on like what Mahatma Gandhi would like to say, like a concept of Ram Rajya, in a good neighborliness, in a good friendliness kind of things, like going back to Plato's Republic, etc. There is another theory and also in international politics, which is very relevant to India's policy toward the world, which is the realist theory or the realism in international politics or international relations, which is based basically on uh, concept like survival, self-help, power, national interest, anarchic societies, etc., etc. And the people who propound these particular realist theories are people like Kenneth Walsh, mm, Alexander George, Henry Kissinger, and number of other scholars. The neo-realist theories, which is propounded by scholars like Robert Keohane and Joseph Nye, they speak about the notion of the capabilities, the notion of the social construction, etc. Then there is another theory that came in international relations or international politics, which is also very valid and germane for India and the world course, which is called the constructivist theory or constructivism. According to constructivist theory, propounded by Alexander Wendt, Peter Karzhenstein, etc., they speak about norms and ideas, particularly in the cultural domain, that how ideas, how normative behaviors, it also shapes the decision-making process of any particular country. And I think that also applies and is very much valid in the case of India as well. The decision-making approach, what kind of decisions the decision makers take, people at the top, the head of the state, the head of the government. For example, in India, from Nehru's time to Modi's time, in the last 70, 75 years since independence, we have got a number of prime ministers and different leaders at different times. They have taken some important decisions in a very rational way. And there is a theory called rational actor model, which is propounded by Graham Allison in the book The Essence of Decision. According to the rational decision making, every country takes a rational view of the collective or cumulative kind of decision making. And I think that's very, very important in terms of the decision making theories. For example, in a democratic society like ours, we take decisions or the leaders take decisions not only in terms of rational point of view, but in a more broad kind of consensual kind of views that applies to Indo-US nuclear deal in 2008 by Dr. Manmohan Singh, that applies to Prime Minister Modi's decision to import the Russian oil during this Ukrainian crisis, that applies to India's decision by Mrs. Indira Gandhi in 1971 to intervene in the East Pakistan crisis that ultimately led to the birth of a new nation called Bangladesh. So I can give you many examples in that particular aspect. There is also a theory called group think, which is propounded again by Irving Janis. He speaks about that number of, in a democratic society, decision is although made by the top and the buck stops there, and the decision making, right or wrong, is taken at the very top, but it is based on a consultative process in a very hierarchical way. Okay. For example, in let us say India, for example, when important decisions are being made by the Prime Minister, for example, he not only takes decision by himself, but he does consult through a process of deliberation, process of dialogue, process of discussions with a number of stakeholders, including the foreign minister, the home minister, the finance ministers, and number of other people. National security advisor, Ajit Doval, Rajnath Singh, Amit Shah, I can give you many, S. Jaisankar, the foreign minister. So number of people, they sit around the things like during Operation Sindoor and many other examples. All important decisions are taken by a group of collective kind of things. So that is called something, the group think theory. In a broad spectrum, India's policy toward the world, if you look at the end of World War II, which was 1945, and India achieved independence 2 years later in 1947, we have got, if I can divide that last 75 years into broadly three categories or into three phases. The first phase will be kind of 1947 to 1962, those 15, 17 years. And there was one prime minister at that point of time, which was Jawaharlal Nehru. This was a phase which scholars would like to say is a more idealistic phase, the Nehruvian period, the more romanticized phase. People are very patriotic, very loyal, because India was freshly independent from the British colonial rule after 200 years. India tasted freedom. Then we had our constitution in the early 50s. We had our first prime president, Dr. Rajendra Prasad, the drafting of the constitutions. Then the election took place in 1952, 57, 62. Then came the big one, the war with China, in which most people will agree that China did occupy a lot of territories of the Indian territories, and that's a big setback from the Indian point of view. Nehru died, of course, in 1964. He was replaced by Lal Bahadur Shastri. All the Shastris remained only for 1.5 years, and he died in Tashkent, Rasa, going there for a resolution of the India-Pakistan conflict on January 11, 1966. But during that time, there was a big war that took place vis-a-vis Pakistan. And in that war, we had a very decisive victory over Pakistan. And a lot of people will remember the Shastri's call to the nation, Jai Jawan, Jai Kisan. Cheers to the soldiers and cheers to the farmers. Then 62 to 91, this was a period which is marked by idealism to self-help approach. In the mid-60s, when Mrs. Gandhi first time became the prime minister, India had a big food crisis. India was short of uh, agricultural output because the population of India at the time of independence was something around 330, 340 million people. So slowly and surely, the number was steadily rising. So it was not possible on the part of Indian agricultural farmers to produce sufficient food grain to feed all the people out there. So India developed a green revolution, and later on it was followed by a blue revolution and also white revolution. The green revolution means India producing enough food grains for its own people. Plus, on the top of that, India also did produce some surplus through which India was able to export those surplus food grain to the rest of the world, to Africa, to Latin America, to many other countries, and we can earn some very valued foreign exchange. The white revolution was mostly the dairy revolution, and that was the time in which we tried to develop the dairy revolution, the milk, the cheese products, etc., etc. And I think today you see in India we have got a variety of white revolutions, and India is one of the leading countries in the world which is ushering in the white revolution. The blue revolution is basically based on the marine products, which is because India is very fortunate to have a long coastline both on the western side as well as on the eastern side. On the western side, we had got the Arabian Sea. On the bottom in the south, we have got Indian Ocean. And on the east, we have got Bay of Bengal. So we have got a very rich mineral marine resources, and through which we also could reap and we can also develop a lot of marine products. We can also earn a lot of foreign exchange. From 1991, why 1991 was important? Partly because this was the end of the Cold War. The Cold War started after World War II in 1945. And India deliberately followed a policy of non-alignment, meaning India did not try to align with any of the countries, any of the power blocks at that point of time. And in 1991 was the end of the Cold War, the end of Soviet Union. The Soviet Union got dismembered into different parts, into different republics, Georgia, Azerbaijan, Kazakhstan, Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, etc., etc. And also, this was the period in which in the globe, in the world, in the global arena, we have the process of globalization, privatization, and also liberalization. So this is the time when the globalization took shape, that also took shape in our country. The prime minister at that point of time in India was P.V. Narasimha Rao, and the foreign minister, sorry, the finance minister was Dr. Manmohan Singh. So due to Rao and Singh, when they started out, when they heralded this process of globalization in the early 1990s, there is a lot of resistance, lot of opposition to the process of globalization, but they stuck to their stand. And today we are reaping the benefits of globalization. Today, when you go to the market, you see all the global brands, global products. And in many ways, of course, there is a downside to globalization because in some ways it did affect the indigenous industries, etc., etc. But I think overall people will agree with the idea that globalization did a lot of more good than some negative consequences, even those negative consequences that has also been mitigated through very creative and innovative practices, through emphasizing on the local industries, on the indigenous industries, or trying to have a partnership between both the global brand as well as the local brand. 1991 onwards, I think again we came back to a policy, what I would say is a policy of pragmatism, tinged with realism. Pragmatism means you have to be smart, like the non-alignment in which we are neither with Soviet Union nor with United States of America. But pragmatism means depending on the issue, depending on our needs, okay, we can take the help, economic aid, financial aid, or any other kinds of help from any country in the world, but without any strings or without any conditions attached to it. And we did that. So that's why in post 1991, the policy of pragmatism, it envisages the policy of strategic autonomy. Strategic autonomy means what? Autonomy means I'm standing on my own leg. I take decision on my own. Okay, so that is the strategic autonomy. Uh, in terms of the determinants of India's policy toward the world, I think there are certain domestic determinants. The determinants means what are the policies that determines India's position in the world. Our history, which is a very checkered history, a rich history of 5,000 years, okay? The Maurya period, the Gupta period, Ashoka, all the way to the Sultanates, the Mughals, the British, okay? And in spite of all the turbulence and vicissitudes, somehow India as a civilization has withstood all that. So I think that's a big plus as far as India is concerned. And that also has determined the way India has shaped. During 1991, a lot of people were worried that India might be fragmented into many, many republics and small countries. It did not happen that way because the history, we have faced a lot of invasions, a lot of outsiders, a lot of intruders, okay? But somehow India has survived. India's geography, that's the big determinants, big geography from the Himalayas to the Vindhyas, and we have got all kinds of weather. If you go to Assam, it rains a lot. You go to Kerala, you go to Kashmir, you go to Rajasthan, the desert, you go to the rice fields like Odisha, Bengal, Andhra, etc. You go to places where there is a significant tribal population, Chhattisgarh, Bihar. You go to Northeast, they have also very unique and distinct cultures kind of thing. History, cultural factors, diversity. We are very proud to say that India is a country which believes in pluralism, which believes in the concept of unity in diversity. And also, we are also firmly rooted in our ideology like democracy, like openness, free society, media, etc., etc. In terms of the external determinants, what are the factors that determines India's relation with the rest of the world or foreign policy? Are the following: India's neighboring countries through multilateral forums like SARC, South Asian Association of Regional Cooperation, India's robust and vibrant relations with the rest of the world, with USA, with Russia, with France, with UK, Canada, Japan, Central Asia, all the countries in South Asia, etc., etc. The role played by United Nations, also India's contribution to the UN peacekeeping operation, World Bank, International Monetary Fund, etc. There are also external factors that also affect, for example, pandemics, H1N1, SARS, Ebola, and a couple of years ago, we all faced the COVID-19 and how it affected India's foreign policy and India's determination, India's relations with the rest of the world. When India came up with the vaccine, Covishield and Covaxin, India was one of the countries which came to the forefront in helping other countries, not only in South Asia, but in the rest of the world, to distribute all the COVID vaccines. So that was once in a century kind of thing, and it was totally unexpected. But I think we handled it reasonably well. The energy crisis, because as you all know, India still is not self-sufficient in terms of energy production. We produce hardly 15-20%. Still, we are importing about 80% of the oil, mostly from the West Asian countries like Saudi Arabia, Iran, Iraq, United Arab Emirates, Kuwait, Bahrain, etc. Lately, I think we have been developing some energy through the solar energy, through green energy, and through nuclear energy, etc. But still, that is not sufficient. We are still getting a lot of the oil input from the outside countries. Issue of climate change, that's a very big issue that India takes very seriously. And India also tries to develop in its own way, like you must have seen a lot of the movement regarding clean and green energy. India is also one of the pioneering members of the International Solar Alliance. And this has been done mostly to counteract India's relations with the rest of the world, and also taking a leadership role in terms of the Solar Alliance. Uh, India is also a very important member of the multipolar world. A lot of people say this is a multiplex world because no longer the global north is there, but also global south. And complex interdependence. So we have got cooperation, we also have got conflict. And we are trying to deal with both. For example, look at Ukraine, look at Russia. We are trying to have relations with both Putin and also with Zelensky. We are having friendship with both Israel as well as Palestine, with Benjamin Netanyahu and also Mahmoud Abbas. So there are many parts in the world where we have got both, and we are on both sides because, as Prime Minister has repeatedly said, this is not an era of war. So basically, we always try to promote a process of conciliation, process of friendship, and process of dialogue and discussion. Maybe something good will come out of it. Okay. Uh, in terms of the uh, other issues, for example, multilateral things, the new world orders, India's position, etc. I think, in spite of all the challenges, all the impediments, and all the obstacles, I think we have been trying to deal with each of them on a case by case, on a issue by issue basis. Uh, Having said that, I think there are certain limitations uh, of India's foreign policy making mechanism. For example, India's huge population, in a way, it is a plus because it gives us some demographic dividend. But at the same time, I mean, you have got a population of what, 142, 145 million people. So, and it's a big number. Corruption in the public place, poverty, divide between the rich regions and poor regions. Like a lot of people that describe states like Bihar and Jharkhand like quote unquote Bimaru state. So you cannot compare states like Bihar and Jharkhand for a variety of reasons with states like Gujarat or Maharashtra or Karnataka, etc. So how we can bridge the divide between the rich states and the poor states? So that is again another big limitations. Lack of accountability. Of course, we have got RTI, we have got a lot of grievance procedures, but still, I think we do have lot of lack of accountability. Too much influence exerted by the foreign lobbies. A lot of times they do exercise that, and sometimes it is very detrimental, very much harmful to the Indian foreign policy. Divergent voices from the coalition partners, sometimes during the EPA governments, also before that during the NDA-1 government by Vajpayee. You know, when you have got coalition with 15, 20, 22 members, it is quite natural that there are divergent viewpoints by different countries. India is also, in contemporary times, in the modern time, it has made the foreign policy or its decision-making approach much more issue-based. Okay? It's not like open-ended kind of things lying to hit in all directions. For example, energy security. That's a very important pillar or important cornerstone of today's foreign policy. Maritime security in Indian Ocean, in Bay of Bengal, in Arabian Sea, in Strait of Malacca, uh, so that the uninterrupted flow of oil, natural resources, important materials can go not only to us, to India, to Bangladesh, to Singapore, to Philippines, all the way to Japan, even down under to Australia, New Zealand, etc. Geoeconomics, when I say geoeconomics, geography and economics, it goes tango, like two together, okay? So people talk about geopolitics, geography and politics. Geoeconomics, geography and economics. Geostrategy, geography and strategy. So the location in South Asia and the location of India, okay? Like when you look at the big picture, okay, you get the whole things. And one should not look into isolation. So geopolitics, geoeconomics, and geostrategy, everything goes together. Water crisis, that is also big thing, okay? Uh, Remember during the school days, we used to say like water, water everywhere, not a drop to drink, okay? So a lot of people that take water for granted that this is unlimited. Okay, it is not unlimited. You look at Brahmaputra issue, you look at Indus River issue, you look at Tista River issue. Okay, any rivers. Okay, So there is upstream, downstreams, okay? And a lot of times the conflict arises because of this sharing of the water. After Operation Sindoor, for example, government of India, they imposed, they put on hold this Indus Treaty, Indus River Treaty, okay? So that is going to cause a lot of hardship to Pakistan agricultural sectors in the state of Punjab, in Sindh, etc., etc. So when Farakka barrage took place in Bangladesh a couple of years ago, that created some issues also in our part of India, in our West Bengal, etc. Brahmaputra, if China is going to make a big dam on the upper stream, that might create some problem downstream in Assam. Okay. So water is a very important issue. So I think that is something that we need to handle it with depth and with diplomatic skill. International terrorism, that is also a big issue. 30 years ago, we heard terrorism in bits and pieces here and there. But today, after 9/11, 2001, September 11 incident in New York, Philadelphia, and Washington, international terrorism issue has come to the forefront. And today, when we say terrorism, it not only means the attack by the terrorists like Lashkar-e-Toiba, Jaish-e-Mohammed, or Al-Qaeda, or ISIS, but it also means cyber terrorism, narco terrorism. Okay, so terrorism can take different ways and different forms. Okay, so today you are sitting in front of a computer. Maybe somebody in Brazil or Argentina or somewhere in Colombia, they can play some mischief, and entire network is down. Okay, so that is called cyber attack or cyber terrorism. So all kinds of terroristic activities need to be handled. Okay. Cyber security, that is also highly imperative, global warming and climate change, nuclear proliferation, that's again still a very important issue. When at the time of World War, at the end of World War II, for example, 1945, only one country in the world which has got nuclear weapons, and that country was USA, United States of America. And they used two of that weapons in Japan, in the city of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And that ended the war. Japan surrendered. 4 years later, in 1949, so then Soviet Union, it also tested the nuclear device or nuclear weapons. Okay. Later on, Great Britain, France, China, they tested. So they become 5 countries. Okay. Then in the mid 90s, in Pokhran 2, we means India tested the nuclear weapons. Okay. Then India was. And few weeks later, Pakistan also tested. Then North Korea also tested. And a lot of people believe Israel also has got nuclear. So today we have got 8 or 9 countries which are known to have nuclear weapons, nuclear things. But the key thing is there has been some treaties like NPT, Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. There has been treaties like CTBT, Comprehensive Test Ban Treaty. Okay? But India has not signed that because India feels this is highly discriminatory. When other countries they do it, they justify it. But when India tries to do it, they don't justify that. So India thinks that treaties like NPT, etc., these are highly discriminatory because they put artificial cutoff date of 1968. If anybody has got a nuclear weapons before 1968, it is okay. It is logical. It is valid, which India does not subscribe to. India tested officially. Of course, India had a peaceful nuclear explosion during Mrs. Indira Gandhi's time in 1974, but officially, India entered into the nuclear club in 1998. Okay? So nuclear proliferation is a very important issue. Recently, you must have seen how American aeroplanes, they tried to bomb the nuclear sites in Iran, etc., because Iran is believed to be developing one, and many other countries, they try to do that. There are, in terms of the stakeholders, who are the various stakeholders in terms of decision making by India to the rest of the world? The government of India, of course, in official capacity, the elected representatives of the Indian Parliament representing various countries, different political parties. You must have seen in the aftermath of Operation Sindoor, the government of India sent official delegation, multi-party delegation to many parts of the world. Okay, that means India's foreign policy is also taking into consideration all the views shared by other countries. Okay, the Friendship Society, if you go to Parliament, Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha, you see India Korea Friendship Association, India Japan Friendship Association, India USA India, Japan, India, Austria, India, Germany, friendship societies. Uh, Also, the media is also playing a very important role in the shaping of the foreign policy, electronic media, the print media, and of course, in the last couple of years, the social media. They have been extremely active. So people read in the Twitter or in Instagram or in the Facebook, and within no time, okay, information is being shared, is being disseminated. The role of civil society, the NGOs, that is also very, very important. They are playing a very important role in stepping up different viewpoints. Okay, a lot of times it really helps if you have got multiple kinds of inputs or feedback from different stakeholders. Okay, and the civil society is one organization which also provides some important feedback or at least important viewpoints on an important issue, so that at least you can have at the end of the day very informed kind of decisions. Lobby and pressure groups, a couple of years ago it was mostly illegal, but today I think it is official. Like for example, when India mm, position is being taken up in the American Congress, in the Senate, or in the House of Representatives, we have a lobby, which is the official lobby. We pay for it, and they try to promote and enhance India stocks or India pro-India legislation in the American Congress, in the American media, in the American decision-making apparatus. Okay, so that is perfectly legal. Okay, educated and power elite, they also play a very important role. The academic elites, the people who put informations in the newspaper, etc., etc. The diaspora, they are also playing a very important role in in terms of providing inputs. Diaspora in many countries in the world, whether it is Canada, USA, UK, Singapore, Guyana, Trinidad, Tobago, I can name any countries. There are significant amount of Indian origin people. That's why we have got a OCI card, Overseas Citizen of India, PIO, Persons of Indian Origin cards. We every year in the first week of January, we have a big mega conference, Pravasi Bharatiya Divas, etc., etc. So the diaspora is very much an integral part of the decision-making process, because they also bring back a lot of ideas, a lot of input, a lot of money, and many different ways. Okay, so instead of thinking the diasporic population of India in many parts of the world as a brain drain, I think the truth is, instead of brain drain, like brain is being drained to the different countries, it is rather the reverse. It is brain gain or brain recirculation. Okay, or the rather you can say brain bank of India. So that a person can sit in New York in a hospital, but a doctor in AIMS or a subsurgeon, they can log on to the computers and they can have a video conference, can get a second opinion about a particular health issue. Okay, so they can also help us. Okay, they can invest a lot of things. Like for example, the other day I was listening to a lecture by Chandrababu Naidu, who is the Chief Minister of Andhra, and he was telling how the NRI population, the Andhra NRI population, the diaspora living in different countries, they are trying to help build or at least pay a significant amount to the building of the new capital in Amravati, which is going to be the new capital of the new state of Andhra Pradesh. I'm just giving you one example. So many NRIs in different parts, many diasporic population, they're trying to give back something to the land of origin, to the country from which they originally migrated to the rest of the things. NGO civil, the think tanks, they are also playing very important roles. Like in Delhi, we have got government think tanks like IDSA, Institute of Defense and Strategic Analysis. We have got ICWA, Indian Council for World Affairs. We have got Ministry of External Affairs Library. We also have got a lot of private think tanks, the ORF, Observer Research Foundation, CRF, Chintan Research Foundation, VIF, Vivekanand International Foundations, and many other organizations. They also play a very important role in the fine-tuning and shaping of the foreign policies. Uh, Public opinion, that is also very important, because you need to take along the public opinion of the people. If the majority of the people support you or they are against you, I think you should think twice, and those input should be taken into consideration. The political parties, the media, the parliamentary committees, social movements, etc. Before I conclude my lectures, let me just say that the two of the things that are most important, I think it's very valid in terms of India is like India, when we say concept of power or national interest, okay, it goes hand in hand, okay. So the power is basically split in today's time into two parts. One is the hard power and one is the soft power. For example, when we say hard power, I mean, what are the examples that when we say India is a hard power, okay, in the rest of the world, in the eyes of the rest of the world, the third largest armed forces. We have got indigenous weapon system, Agni 1, Agni 2, Agni 3, Agni 4, Agni 5. For example, Agni 5 is being tested, which is also being in use. It has got a range of more than 5,000 kilometers. For example, in any part of India, we can hit any part of Central Asia, China, and many countries. More than 5,000 kilometers. Nag, Trisul, BrahMos missile, Pinaki, etc. Nuclear weapons capabilities. Okay, as I told you, we are nuclear weapons country since 1998 in official way. Nuclear deterrence in triad, so we know how to deter the nuclear adversaries, whether it is Pakistan or China, through land, through sea, and through air. We have got missile capabilities uh, where we can send long-range missiles, and during Operation Sindoor, some of these missiles were tested. Development of ICBM, intercontinental ballistic missile, nuclear submarines. Not many countries in the world have that. We have got INS Vikrant, INS Arihant, NDMA, National Disaster Management Authorities, which is a very important organ and during times of natural crisis like earthquake and during cyclone, drought, etc., they play very, very important role. And they also have a wing that in case of any chemical attacks or biological attacks or nuclear attacks, NDMA can also play very important. India's diversified defense diplomacy. India today does not depend only on one country. For example, India gets defense procurement from multiple sources, from USA, from France, from Great Britain, from Russia, from Israel, from many countries. We do regularly military exercises on land, air, and sea. For example, Malabar exercise that takes place each year, that is the annual exercise. All the Southeast Asian countries, Philippines, Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia, India, they all take part in that. Anti-piracy operations in the high seas, so that the pirates who try to pilferage or try to steal goods in the Arabian Sea, in the Bay of Bengal, they are being controlled. So these are some of the examples of the hard power. Now the question is, what is soft power? Soft power, as Joseph Nye had said, that this is a power of attraction, power of seduction. You cannot feel it, you cannot taste it, but it definitely enhances the total power quotient of a particular country. And in terms of India, a lot of people say India is a brand state or India is a swing state. Okay, India, Bollywood, for example. Bollywood movies are very popular in many parts of the world. You go to Singapore, you go to Japan, you go to US, Canada, etc. India's public diplomacy, the role played by the External Affairs Ministry, the ICCR, Indian Council of Cultural Relations, the way we outreach to Africa, to Global South, I think that's very, very important. India's music and dance forms, uh, India's emphasis on IT, information technology, skilling, reskilling, upskilling, India's literature, cricket, India's democratic tradition and resilience, open society, inclusive societies. Our Prime Minister always used to say, Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, and then he added the two more, Sabka Vishwas and Sabka Prayas. Non-alignment 2.0, Indian cuisine, for example, are very popular. You go to any part of the world, that also is a part of this soft power. Indian textiles, Indian exports, Indian media, uh, Indian education sector. You know, this recently we have got NEP 2020, new education policy. Now, as part of this NEP 2020, India is now creating campuses, IIT Delhi, IIT Mumbai, IIT Madras, having campuses in Abu Dhabi, in Tanzania, in many countries in the world. Similarly, the other countries, they are opening up branches. Australian universities are opening branches in Ahmedabad, in Gift City. Just few days ago, the University of Southampton in United Kingdom, England, they had a office, they had a branch satellite campus in Gurgaon, in Gurugram. So the education sector is also acting as an important outlet for uh, the India subpower. India's middle class, which is now about 500 to 600 million people, they are very vibrant. They can spend money, and that also provides a big growth for the India's economy, which is now the fourth largest in the world. Okay, and maybe in the couple of years will be the third largest, maybe after US and China. And also we have got um, big people in Indian history like Kautilya, Gautam Buddha, Asoka, Mahatma Gandhi, etc. And also scholars, people like Rabindranath Tagore, they also have significantly contributed. You go to any part of the world, people do recognize what Gandhi has done, what Tagore has done, what Kautilya has done. Okay? And a lot of people, those are widely read by people all over the world, and their classic works have been translated into all different languages. And also, finally, India's plenty diversity, the multiculturalism, I think that's very, very important. So I think in many ways, it definitely enhances the power quotient of the India's policies in terms of the foreign policy, in terms of the decision making. So I think that's all I have to say today. So thank you very much. Again, I will see you next Sunday. Thank you very much. Thank you. ওটা আছে কি? না ওটা দরকার নেই ওটা তো दूसरा चीज बंद कर दो।